Get ready for truth and transparency from an ocean of liberal tears. Welcome to the Blue Shark Show with your host, Mike Lang.
Brain pop, social justice, BLM, LGBTQ in your ISDs. We did an episode number 67 on BLM and CRT, and this is a continuation of that episode. We're looking at words like honor, celebrate, enjoy, and back to honor and celebrate again, all through these videos where the kids, if they're of certain ages, small, grade school, middle school, they're going to look at this and believe they're going to have to honor and celebrate LGBTQ. They're going to have to honor and celebrate social justice, equity, and things like that. So parents, you need to see what your kids are watching and what they may be being taught in their schools.
It's June, and that means Pride Month, when we celebrate the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community. And we have an exciting milestone to celebrate this year. To honor those events, and happy Pride, everyone!
For me, Pride is a time for celebration and honor the folks who had it a little bit harder than us.
When we celebrate the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer members of our community.
Yeah, and whether it's actively being taught or not, the point is they still have access to these materials. This is something that the child can get on the computers at school, get on to Brain Pop, and they can watch these lessons. So if these lessons that are being taught on Brain Pop don't align with your values in the home, then this is something that parents definitely need to look into and talk to their children about, because they have access to this at school.
Yeah, it's not like this is high school seniors or, kids that are 18 but still in school. We're talking about very young children, elementary age children have access to these materials. And even since the last episode we did, GISD still is leaving all this available for the kids to watch and, learn about.
And at some point you have to ask, where do the school trustees stand? And I've seen a couple stand up. Of course, we mentioned Dr. Glenn stand up against CRT and Dr. Paula McDonald. I'd really like to see others stand up and take a proactive stand in the community, not just the trustees, but also the parents, the grandparents, the people that see this and say, look, if my kids are being taught that, I need to know so I can tell my kids what our values are in our family.
Yeah, so when you enroll your students in school or register for the next year, you have different paper that comes home, or different things you have to sign off on Skyward. And, you have to say it's okay to take a photo of your child. You have to say it's okay to post that photo. If this is the material that your child's going to have access to at school, there should be some kind of disclaimer where the parent signs off saying that they have the parent's permission to access these materials online when they're at school. They need to be made aware of the information that their child has access to when they log on to school computers. So if the school wants to have complete, full transparency with the community, then they should be sending some kind of disclaimer home that allows the parents to opt in or opt out of these materials if they don't want their children having access to something like this.
And I understand the real world, a lot of things go on and things are happening, and the teachers and the parents, they can teach the kids certain things, but the values come from home.
Right.
And when you're looking at LGBTQ in the grade school and you keep repeating the words honor and celebrate, well, as a Christian, I'll be telling my kids, if I had kids in school, that we believe in not celebrating that, because in the Christian community, it's a sin. And yes, we all sin, we all fall short, but you're not supposed to celebrate sin. So that's something that the kids will have to have the knowledge of if it's being taught in school, that the families also have values. But it seems like that it always goes the other way. Forget about Christianity, forget about the Christians over here. Let's just push all this other stuff on the kids, and so be it.
I would really like to see the school just stop participating in Brain Pop. I've gone through and watched some of the other stuff, and it all has a leftist slant. Anything that has to do with history or LGBT, BLM, it's all slanted to the left. And do the taxpayers in Granbury want to be spending their money paying to have your kids exposed to this stuff, elementary kids, at a very early age?
And there's discussions we can have as they get older, like you said, in high school and colleges, things like that, once they face the real world. But when we're talking about at such a young age and getting the kids started in brain pop and them thinking that is the truth all the way through school, and then they look at these videos that can be questionable, then, everything's the truth to them.
If it conflicts with the values at home and what's being taught in the home or what's being taught when they go to church, then that creates a whole nother dynamic that the parents are going to have to deal with as the child gets older. And there is no reason why we should be teaching anyone's sexual orientation or preference to elementary school children. There's absolutely zero reason why they should be exposed to that kind of material. Those are conversations that belong in the home and need to stay in the home.
And that's why we need to get the parents involved. We need to get trustees there that haven't been there for 20, 25, 30 years, that have been indoctrinated themselves and can't see what's been going on over the last 20, 30 years. And slowly, like that frog in a boiling pot, everything is accepted. And what is accepted in this generation becomes a norm for the next generation. The conservatives and the Christians have a tough time with this because they would like to negotiate. Mm-hmm. They want to be respectful of everybody, and you should be respectful. But it's always that, let's agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And once I hear that, it's like, you can agree to disagree and be respectful, but then as conservatives, trying to be moral people, Christians, we give up. And we tend to forget it, and then the liberals and the socialists take over and they do whatever they want.
Yeah, this go along to get along attitude has to change. You have principles, you have morals. Everybody does. But you have to stand up for them, or those principles and morals don't mean anything.
And you got to look at, like I said, the parents, the grandparents, the church. Where's the church? Where's the church is stepping up for this and standing up for biblical principles, and the pastors? And this isn't a negative talk. This is realization, folks. We're at a time in life that if we don't stand up for these things and quit negotiating all our morals and rights away, we're going to be lost. So the Christians have to stand up. The moral people have to stand up. None of us is void of sin. We all sin. We're not perfect, but we have to start standing, folks.
Yeah, and this isn't about teaching hate towards one group or another group of people. This isn't about hate. This is about your family's principles and values, what you're teaching in the home, and if it conflicts with what's being taught in the school, what can you do as a community, as parents, to change that, to protect your children for as long as possible? Yes, you can't protect them forever, but there comes a time when something's just not age appropriate, and when you had the chance to build that foundation in your children in the home, when they do go out into the world and they're exposed to more things, they'll have that foundation to fall back on.
Watching these videos, it's like if you aren't gay or you don't totally accept and think that it's perfectly okay to be, talking about this stuff with 8-year-olds, well, you're kind of a jerk. That's the theme of this video. If you don't accept transgender 8-year-olds according to these videos, then you're a jerk. And it's also encouraging all these students, these very young students, to start things like Gay Straight Alliance and after school stuff. And then they go through and tie it to BLM. And it just all fits into this, kind of web of social justice, and it ties it all together. And if you oppose it, that's bad. You can't do that. Right
now, many in the LGBTQ community have been demonstrating just that, marching in the Black Lives Matter protests.
The reason why after-school activities are so important is because once you leave school, some students are able to go home. However, some students don't have that. And so providing alternatives for them to going home right after school, whether that's a club or a sport or an after-school job.
It sets the stage for no recourse or open discussion with these ideologies. And when you're exposing children so young to material like this, that can lead to gender confusion and other issues. And we're seeing a lot of this happening now in our children. And it starts in school, in the stuff that they're exposed to there.
So you see a lot of the word unity on social media, and usually it comes from the more liberal, more socialist type people. because, you could have unity in your family, unity in your school, unity in Christ. There can be a lot of things that you're unified in, but it seems to be that if you're unified in something and somebody doesn't like it, what do you get?
Yeah, well, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to go against the grain. People that like to use the word unity a lot usually mean with that, they say, yeah, unity as long as you agree.
In another video besides the Pride 2020 and 2021 is the Harvey Milk video.
People celebrate Harvey Milk Day all across California on May 22nd. He was an iconic leader of the gay rights movement in the 1970s. Today, he's honored as a pioneer.
Yeah, and a lot of people use this platform kind of like Harvey Milk did, and people can say, oh, it's not true all they want, but the fact remains a lot of people do use this platform to groom young children, and they're basically just sexual predators.
Harvey Milk absolutely was. And, I think the reason they have an entire lesson on this guy was because he was basically the equivalent to being a city councilman out in San Francisco. He was one of, if not the first, openly gay men elected to office.
Harvey Milk was one of the first openly gay politicians in the U.S. He served as a local representative in San Francisco, but his outspoken style earned him national attention. So, every year on his birthday, California students honor him the way we do other civil rights pioneers. People like Susan B. Anthony, Cesar Chavez, and Martin Luther King.
The issue here, and it's funny that the left isn't trying to cancel this, because Harvey Milk was a pedophile. Harvey Milk groomed a 16-year-old boy, and it could have started a little bit before he was even 16, but he groomed a 16-year-old boy that, was underprivileged, and at the end of it, he was very suicidal. And that's, it's nothing to joke about. It's sad. And the fact that this guy's being celebrated is a travesty, and the fact that your tax dollars are going to celebrate that is, an issue.
And when you have this platform set up to where you can't go against it, you can't speak out against it, or you're bad, it's not okay, or you're homophobic or racist, you've set the stage for predators to come in and just take over, because no one can question them. No one can call them out, because if they do, now society comes in and they're the bad guy.
And when they talk about Harvey Milk, once again, they use those words of proud and celebrate. And when you look at this as a parent or as a teacher or as a trustee for a school board, look at it in the eyes of trying to convince those kids that they have to be proud and they have to celebrate the fact that this is a true and believable thing when it's not morally. So we need to get back to the basics in the school, right?
Right. We're teaching the academics here. We're not teaching other people's sexual orientation.
I always like the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Why don't we just get back to that and get off this brain pop nonsense?
So take a look at Harvey Milk, look him up on Google, and look at his background, and just see for yourself if that's the kind of person you want your kids to honor and celebrate.
And then to vilify parents or other children, high school age children in our school district, to vilify them if they don't agree with this is wrong. Everyone has their own morals and values, and those are taught in the home, and that's where they need to stay. Being taught is in the home.
So what we found with this brain pop, and it goes through all society right now, is we have sexual confusion, we have gender confusion, and we have moral confusion. And folks, if we let your kids go to school and look at these programs and look at these videos, they're going to be deciding the moral compass and the foundation for your kids moving forward throughout their life. It needs to be the parents, and it needs to be the grandparents, and it needs to be the church, or wherever you place your faith. And this is not being done in the schools. The kids are being indoctrinated, plain and simple. And it's time for the teachers, the trustees, and the parents, and even the churches and pastors to step up and say, no more. Shark Show out.